Today, the global markets have begun their reversal. The S&P has started to hit lower lows, and the crypto market is seeing some major downside today. Over the past several weeks on this channel, I gave you guys many warnings about this taking place. And now that my predictions for the stock market and crypto are beginning to play out, we're going to be discussing some major price targets that I'm looking at. All of this and more in today's video. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Svenson, and today we're going to be talking about the price of Bitcoin in the stock market reversal that is beginning to play out. As we all should know by now, Bitcoin and the stock market are heavily correlated. All the major peaks and major lows line up with the Bitcoin chart. And if you take a look at the actual data, you can see that Bitcoin and the S&P have a very strong correlation. Most of my viewers should know this by now. And a lot of people are confused because big companies like MicroStrategy have been buying Bitcoin recently, and people are asking me, Kev, why are you bearish on Bitcoin when MicroStrategy is buying? Well guys, professionals can also make mistakes. A lot of people still don't understand that Bitcoin is correlated to the stock market. And if the analysts at MicroStrategy were not looking for a stock market reversal to take place, then that means that their timing was very off. Now I'm looking at Bitcoin on the daily chart. We can see that Bitcoin has pulled back to around 10,300. And obviously this is happening because the S&P has started off this week with a major bearish continuation candle. We're currently down 2.5% for the S&P already today. And this is not a surprise to all the viewers of this channel. If you've been watching this channel, you know that we were looking at the bearish divergence that had played out for the S&P on the weekly, and we were looking for continued downside based on this indication. Something else we discussed on this channel was that this entire bounce back for the S&P and for the stock market was all based on pretty much thin air. It was just money printing and asset purchases, just artificially propping up the market for the time being so that there wasn't an absolute disaster after March. This entire run-up right here is more or less a bubble actually, and I do expect us to see a major correction in the stock market. Looking at the RSI, we do have a lot more room to run down to be actually in oversold territory, which means that for the next few months, guys, we could actually see a much steeper decline in the stock market. Just like this setup right here in 2018, when we formed bearish divergence and we saw a major pullback, this is where Bitcoin hit 3,100 actually. This pullback took months to play out, guys, months. And I do expect that this pullback could also take months to play out, and it could get really harsh. On this channel, we also discussed the Federal Reserve balance sheet in the last video. We were talking about how the balance sheet has not seen any significant increase recently. We saw a major increase after March, and that's when the Federal Reserve began to pump the market, right? That's when we saw the initial bounce back. And then retail traders stepped in after the first initial bounce and pushed prices up even higher. And as the stock market began to continue up, the Federal Reserve balance sheet flatlined. And that indicates that retail traders were a big reason for this last major push to the upside. And in my opinion, this bounce back is going to probably end up being a major trap for the bulls. And taking a look at the US dollar index, we can see that the US dollar index is seeing some major moves, huge support coming in. A lot of people are exiting the stock market and going into cash. Cash has become king once again. And what I think is actually quite possible is that the DXY might see a major push to the upside, running up towards 95.5, retesting this previous support zone as potential new resistance over the next month or two. If this does play out and the US dollar gains strength again, this would mean that the stock market is likely going to see a major crash actually, or at least a continued pullback. I would expect the S&P to come back to test at least 2930, which is another 10% to the downside from here. And it's possible that over time we could go even lower than that, testing down towards 2,500 for the S&P. But it really all depends on how things play out and what happens with the stimulus package. In my opinion, the death of Justice Ruth Ginsburg may actually cause more division between the two political parties here in the US, which might make it even more difficult to pass a stimulus package, which would end up being very bad for the stock market. So the question is, if we do see a major continued decline in the stock market, whether it's a moderate decline or an extreme decline, the question is what's going to happen to Bitcoin? So first of all, taking a look at Bitcoin on the daily chart, we can see that we did get a death cross recently. The 21 EMA crossed below the 55 EMA, and this is the exact same death cross that took place in March right before the major crash in the stock market. And after that crash, we saw a huge pullback, upwards of 57% to the downside. So if the stock market does see a major decline over the next few months, this is obviously not going to be very good for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin could also see something similar happen once again. Now, looking at Bitcoin on the weekly chart, the RSI is showing that we have a lot of room to run to the downside if we really wanted to here in this market. And the same thing goes, as I said before, with the stock market. We have a lot of room to run down with the RSI here for the S&P as well. So the area that I'm looking to target if the stock market crash continues, the area that I'm looking to target is closer to the 200-week moving average, but more specifically, I would be looking for about $5,900 US. I think that it's quite possible that Bitcoin could actually retest around this level, around the 6K level, more specifically $5,900 US, which is a major support level from 2018. And that is the area that I'd be looking to target and ultimately looking to hold the 200-week moving average on the next major dump to the downside. So $5,900 US is the area that I'm looking to target right now, which from swing low to swing high here from this run after March is coming in right around the 786 fib retrace. I do think that this is a critical zone to hold for Bitcoin, and a lot of whales are going to be targeting that price. So $5,900 US is my downside target right now if this stock market reversal plays out. If we see continued downside pressure in the stock market, it's going to make it very easy for the price of Bitcoin to see these types of prices. As we all know, people are way over leveraged in this market, and leveraged longs would get hardcore liquidations in this scenario. We could see some really quick price action to the downside. And for Ethereum, that target is actually coming in just below $200 US. And for Chainlink, that price target is coming in just above $5. And altcoins are not going to be doing very well in this type of a scenario if the stock market continues this pullback. So as I explained in all my previous videos, there's a lot of things going on in the world that, are going to affect the Bitcoin price. And we can't just look at the Bitcoin price to determine what's going to happen. You have to look at everything else. So the things that we have to keep an eye on right now is obviously the S&P 500, if we get this continued bearish reversal, and the US dollar index. If we start to see a major breakout for the US dollar index, that would mean that the major players on Wall Street are starting to exit the stock market and bet on the US dollar against stocks. Now, the way that I have this drawn on the chart right now shows a direct pullback to 5,900. I'm not saying that's exactly what I expect to take place. It all depends on how the stock market plays out. If this pullback for the stock market, maybe, next week we see a little bit of bounce and then a slow pullback. If the pullback is slow, then the pullback for Bitcoin will also be slow. But if this week ends extremely bearishly and the next week also continues bearish, well, guys, the downturn for Bitcoin would also be pretty fast. And this is just what I think is most likely right now. If the stock market recovers from here and we get some good news about the stimulus package and the Fed starts increasing purchases again and the balance sheet starts to grow once again, then we may avert this super bearish scenario and things won't be as bearish as I'm expecting. So just keep in mind, guys, there's so much stuff to look at right now that's affecting the Bitcoin price. It's not just as simple as looking at the Bitcoin chart. There is a crazy scenario taking place across the world right now, and the entire stock market has been propped up with trillions of dollars just printed out of thin air. That is not real growth. You guys gotta stay cautious out there. If you guys enjoyed this video, if you found it interesting, if you found it helpful, then hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and also sign up with the Cryptowatch platform, which is my preferred platform for charting and trading. They're adding the volume profile tool this Tuesday. So definitely sign up, guys. It's free to sign up. It's free to use. You got nothing to lose. Click that link below. And if you guys want to support this channel and get extra content, you can join the Patreon. I warned all of my patrons well in advance about this downturn, and they actually saved a lot of money, right? People were taking profits, reducing exposure from the market, and a lot of them are doing really well right now because of that. So if you think that's interesting, join the Patreon, and I'll see you guys in the next video.